back, incredible thinkers. I'm Sue Sabella, your Great Minds teacher. Let's see what we need for today. Today you'll need Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, your journal, and a pencil. Please pause here to gather what you need and just hit play when you're ready to continue. Sources of information come in many forms. Today, we're going to take a closer look at two different types of sources. We're going to look closely at a map, and we're also going to revisit Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. Both are texts, but they're two different types of texts. But both texts can help grow our knowledge when it comes to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Let's begin by taking a closer look at one text source, a map. This is a map of the United States. This map here on the screen has two colors. You'll see blue, and there's also a tan. I'd like you to focus on the states that are colored tan. The tan states on this map represent the states that were segregated before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Segregated means that people were kept apart. Specifically, Black people were kept apart from white people in public places. When we read Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, we learned that in the South and in some other states, there were laws to keep Black people and white people apart. Also, this map shows in the tan states that they had schools that were segregated. Black children learned in schools that were separate from white children. Segregation is the action of separating people based on the color of their skin. One thing that I notice when I look at the word segregation and the word separating, they both begin with S-E, se. Se means apart or by itself. So when I see the word segregation, I think and I picture people being separated from each other. Just like we learned in the text, Martin Luther King and the March on Washington, people were separated from each other based on the color of their skin. I'd like you to take time to jot down the word segregation and the definition in your journal. Also, I encourage you to draw a picture of people being separated based on the color of their skin. Pause here to write and draw. Just hit play when you're ready to continue. Today, we're going to be revisiting Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, and we're going to work together to determine or figure out the main topics in this text. In the past, you probably remember using buttons in bags or buttons in boxes to determine the main topic. Today, we're going to try it without buttons and bags on screen, but if you're comfortable using buttons and bags or buttons in boxes, it's totally okay if you'd like to continue using that routine on your own. Today, I'm also going to show you an alternative for that you can use in case buttons and bags are not handy when you're reading a new text. Let's dig back in, or let's revisit Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington, and let's determine the main topics together. And also, you're going to be able to do some of it totally on your own. Let's go. Pause here to set your journal up with 4 squares. Each square will hold the main topic for each large section that we read and discuss. Just hit play when you're ready to continue. We're going to reread this text in 4 big sections. The first section are pages 4 through 9. So if you have your own copy, please feel free to follow along in your own copy. If not, you can follow along on the screen. We'll determine the main topic for this first section together. August 28, 1963. It is a hot summer day in Washington, D.C. More than 250,000 people are pouring into the city. They have come by plane, by train, by car, and by bus. The details that we've read so far are really connected to the people who are pouring into Washington, D.C. in 1963. As we keep reading, listen for those details to see if they're connected to people coming into D.C. to attend this big event. Some people have walked all the way to Washington from New York City. That's more than 230 miles. One man has roller skated from Chicago. It has taken him 11 days. On these next 2 pages, I learned 2 more details. I learned that people walked all the way from Washington to New York City. I also learned that one man roller skated from Chicago and it took him 11 days. So both of these details support the main topic that people are going to DC. Since you're so observant, you probably noticed instead of dropping a button into a bag or a box, I'm just raising a finger when I hear a detail that supports the main topic. So get ready to use your fingers to signal that you heard a detail as we continue to work together. Here we go. By late morning, a crowd has gathered at one end of a long, narrow pool. Nearby is the Lincoln Memorial with its statue of Abraham Lincoln. Why are so many people here at this place on this day? On these 2 pages, I learned more details that supported the main topic of people coming to Washington, D.C. From the text, I learned a crowd has gathered at one end of a long pool. When I look at the illustration, I see people all over the mall in Washington, D.C. That's another detail. The details that we learned as we read this section support this main topic. In 1963, many people from all over the country came to Washington, D.C. Every time we heard a detail that supported that main topic, we raised our finger and we noticed that there were many details that supported this big idea or main topic. Let's try it again with another section. As we read the next section, which are pages 11 to 21, I want you to listen closely because I'm going to read a little bit further than the first few pages. I want you to think about what these details have in common. And as soon as you think you know what that main topic is or big idea for this section, pause and tell your learning partner or shout it out to me. Remember, every time you hear a detail that supports the main topic, raise the finger and listen carefully so you can begin to make those connections. Here we go. It is because 100 years ago, President Lincoln helped to free the people who were slaves. It was during the Civil War. President Lincoln knew that slavery had to end. Now it is 1963. There has been no slavery for a long time. But are Black people and white people treated equally? No. And that is why people are in Washington today. They have come to protest. They will speak out against something they think is wrong. In the South and in some other states, there are laws to keep Black people and white people apart. Black people cannot eat in many restaurants or stay in many hotels. In movie theaters, they must enter by separate doors and sit way up in the balcony. On public buses, they have to take seats in the back. I'm starting to make connections between details. I'm learning from the text that people have come to protest. I'm also learning from the text that there are laws to keep Black people and white people apart. I'm also learning from the text that in movie theaters, people must enter through separate doors and sit way up in the balcony. And on public buses, they have to take seats in the back. There are many details that are connected. I'm going to keep reading, but as I keep reading, I'm going to keep this main topic in mind. It sounds like people are there to protest laws that are just not right. Let's keep reading to see if we can hear and read more details to support this main topic. There are signs that say, for whites only. Even water fountains say white or colored. Which of these fountains looks nicer to you? Black people and many white people wanted things to change. It is time for a change. It is past time for a change. In the crowd are some grandchildren and great-grandchildren of slaves. Many of these people have been part of protests before. When I think about the section that we just read, the big connections are, or the big ideas for this section is, people went to Washington, D.C. to protest unjust laws or laws that were just not right. There were many details to support this main topic in this section. As I read the next section aloud, pages 26 through 43, listen carefully to the details and decide how are they connected. What is the main topic? And you have a choice. You can listen here along on the screen, or you can pause the video and read those pages yourself in your own copy of the text. You decide. If you decided to read from your own text, you can just hit the mute button, or you can pause the video and then skip ahead to section 4 when you get back. If you're following along on the screen, let's go. So, on August 28, 1963, at 11:30 a.m., the March on Washington begins. The crowd marches to the Lincoln Memorial. As they walk, the people sing, "We shall overcome, we shall overcome, we shall overcome someday." Later, there are many speakers. They stand on the steps of the memorial in front of Lincoln's statue. Each person talks about freedom. The marchers sit on the grass and listen. They know that today history is being made. By noon, the sun is very hot. Some people take off their shoes and cool their feet in the pool. Bag lunches are sold. Each one has a cheese sandwich, an apple, and a slice of pound cake, all for 50 cents. The high point of the day comes at 3 o'clock. The crowd grows quiet. A young man takes the stage. He looks at the crowd. There are people as far as he can see. The man's name is Martin Luther King Jr. He is a preacher and the son of a preacher. He has grown up in Georgia. He knows all about what it is like to be a Black person in the South. Dr. King is a man of peace, but he is also a fighter. He doesn't use his fists or weapons. He uses words. In the South, Dr. King has led many other protests. One was a march in Georgia. Another was a protest against a bus company in Alabama. He has been put in jail many times. There are threats against his life. Some people want him dead, but that does not stop him. Today in Washington, Dr. King speaks words of hope. His speech is about his dream for a better world. He says, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin. He hopes that people will see all children for who they are, things they do in lives. It is his dream that one day little Black boys and Black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and girls. Dr. King speaks for 16 minutes and 20 seconds. His voice rises and falls. The crowd leans forward. They want to hear every word. 9 times Dr. King says, I have a dream. When Dr. King finishes, there is silence. Then 250,000 people start to clap and to cheer. Some people are so moved by his words, they cry. People all around the world watch Martin Luther King Jr. on TV. So does President John F. Kennedy. By early evening, people start back to their cars, to the buses, and to the trains and planes. It is time to go home. The march has ended, but that is not the end of the story. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to pause to do some pretty powerful work. But first, I'd like you to listen to the directions. I'd like you to jot down what you think the main topic is for this section. And then I'd like you to go back and listen or read this section again. And every time you read or hear a detail that supports your main topic, put up a finger. And if you have 3, 4, or 5 fingers up by the time you're done listening or reading and they support your main topic, leave your main topic right in the box. But if you do not have any details that support your main topic, you may need to write a different main topic in based on the details that you've heard again. Pause here to do this powerful work and just hit play when you're ready to continue. Now I'd like you to find the main topic for the last section of this text, pages 44 through 47. Listen carefully to all the details and think deeply about how they're connected. What's the big idea that connects them all? What's the main topic? As soon as you know, or as soon as you think you might know what the main topic is, jot it down into your box and then continue to listen to the rest of the details. As you listen to the rest of the details, check them to make sure that they support the topic you have written in your box. If you need to change the main topic based on the details that you're hearing, it's okay to do that. Ready? Let's give it a try. 1 year later, a law is passed. It is called the Civil Rights Act of 1964. From now on, there cannot be restaurants for whites only. There cannot be separate seating for Black people and white people in any public place. People cannot be kept apart just because of their skin color. It does not change everything, but it is the beginning. And the power of words, the words of Dr. King and others, changes the law of the land. You know what to do in this box. Once you have your main topic down in your box in your journal, go back and listen again or read this section again and use your fingers to track just how many details you have that support your main topic. If you have 2, 3, 4 details that support your main topic, you're in pretty good shape because you have evidence from the text that supports your thinking about the big idea. So pause here to do this powerful work and just hit play when you're ready to continue. I'd like you to pause here to read over your main topics in each box, first beginning with section 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. Just hit play when you're ready to continue. After those main topics, you probably noticed that this text followed a certain structure. Because it was talking about an event, it flowed from before the event happened, during the event, and then after the event. The big sections in Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington are organized to tell what happened before, during, and after the march. Books use this type of text structure of before, during, and after, especially when they are describing an important historical event. Because you read closely and listened closely and made connections between details, You have a deeper understanding of what is happening in the text Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. You also have a deeper understanding about what was happening in 1963, right before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Share those main ideas, those main topics with others and grow their knowledge about life before the Civil Rights Act. And I will see you again soon, my friends.
Now, I would like you to go to Google Classroom and open the response journal form that goes with this video and type in the answers you wrote down while watching the video.